Would double tap 2 make weapons more useful in Black Ops 6? What would it do to high rounds? Would it be overpowered or not powerful enough? Well, I did the math, and I have so many stats and way too many graphs, all in an effort to find out what happens when you add double tap 2 into Black Ops 6 Zombies. As always with these more analytical videos, be sure to use the chapters in the video so you can jump to whatever section you're most interested in. However, this is an incredibly interesting video that is very worth listening to the entire thing, because so many people have been shouting from the heavens that they want double tap 2.0 here in Black Ops 6. They say weapons don't deal enough damage, they feel terrible after round 30. Well, me being the analytical guy that I am, I decided to test out this theory and mathematically put in double tap 2 into Black Ops 6. And so to figure out what weapons did with double tap 2.0, I needed to figure out what weapons did without double tap 2.0. And so what I did was I took 5 separate weapons. I took the Ames assault rifle, Jackal SMG, XMG LMG, the Goblin assault rifle, and the Strider 22 pistol. I feel like that was a good kind of random assortment of weapons just to kind of get to see some semi-automatics, some regular automatics, some LMGs to get a good spectrum of what double tap 2 could do. I then proceeded to write down the critical damage, the highest critical damage that I could every single round. And when I say highest critical damage, I mean highest critical damage. We went all out here. We did the CHF barrel, we did Deadshot with the Deadhead augment, because those of you who watched my previous Deadshot video know that is the correct augment to use with Deadshot. And with special and boss zombies, we used the elemental weakness, the correct ammo mod associated with them, as well as the elemental pop augment Vulnerabine. This increases that elemental damage to give us our maximum damage per second as we possibly could out of every single one of these weapons for every single round, of course. And this is what that monstrosity looks like. And this is just the first tab of the spreadsheet, beautiful people. You are in for a treat. You can see all 5 of the different weapons here, a bunch of different stats that we're about to go into, and you can see all the different rounds that we did. Let's go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. By the way, do you guys like the dark mode? I'm kind of feeling the dark mode now. Like, I wasn't sure about it before, but I think it's going to be good. Let me know if I need to change any colors here though. But in terms of figuring out our base weapon damage and our stats are here of the base weapons, what I did was I went in, obviously with all the stuff we just discussed, and I just wrote down, I watched the video of the maximum critical damage I was doing with the weapon all throughout the entire rounds. You could see when this goes up, that means I upgraded it. You can see I was playing Liberty Falls here, so at round 10, I like super upgraded it. I did the Easter egg to get the blue tool, and then I pack-a-punched it, I'm sure. And I recorded this all the way down until about, round 20, I triple pack-a-punch legendary, upgraded my weapon, and that damage I was doing was 4,509. I then took this damage right here, multiplied it by the rate of fire, divided by 60 to get damage per second. This number, very important to note, this is just straight from the menus. This is not hand tested. This is just straight from the menus with what the rapid fire said it would be. And here is the damage per second that we're doing. The aims really surprised me, 62, nearly 63,000 damage per second. You can kind of see what that looks like right here. You can see this is our zombie health in this chart. You've seen this before if you've seen some other videos of mine. And then you have our damage per second just skyrocketing here at round 20, because like I said, probably did that Easter egg. I did a lot of salvage saving Liberty Falls. I've got maximized really well done. And you could see that our damage per second is just staying steady there, nothing too crazy. And then what I decided to do was to do kills per second. This is, in my opinion, probably one of the top 2 or top 3 most important stats to pay attention to throughout this video, this kills per second. Thinking about it logically, your kills per second are going to increase when your damage goes up, which you can see right here, and it's going to decrease over time as the health of the zombie goes up. So you can see it decreases, like it increases every time I pack a punch or upgrade my weapons rarity or get Deadshot or something, but it's going to just steadily drop off as the rounds progress because the zombies have higher and higher health. Pretty simple. However, I feel like it's valid throughout this entire video to point out some rounding errors and some kind of perfect math that isn't actually perfect in game. This kills per second is assuming that this damage is being perfectly distributed to critical shots throughout the entirety of the zombie horde. So for example, here on round 20, when I'm dealing 4,500 damage to this zombie that has 2,000 damage, this calculation and these other calculations, and really every calculation, is assuming that this one bullet right here is going to kill 2 zombies. And then with the leftover damage, it's going to perfectly go into critical damage for the next zombie. But as we know by playing the game, that's not how damage works. Even if this bullet collaterals 2 zombies in the head, we know for a fact, thanks to FMJ, there is a damage drop off. So it might not be able to kill 2 zombies because of that damage drop off. So just know that these numbers are imperfect. If anything, these are the absolute maximum. These are the best case scenarios where everything is perfectly distributed. So as we see some of these numbers moving forward, like you could see killing a zombie or 1.25 zombies a second is going to be probably not super accurate. It's probably going to be less than that because, again, we're not dealing with our perfect damage. I really hope that makes sense, because here is is that column here, this kills per second column graphed out here. And it's actually a cool visual. I like these graphs more than I like the charts here. You can see our damage starts here, and as we progress, we'll get lower and lower because the health gets higher and higher, and then we'll upgrade our weapon, then it'll go back down, then we'll upgrade our weapon and upgrade our weapon on round, 10, 11, we'll triple pack a punch or double pack a punch or something. We'll get the legendary or epic rarity, will come back down, and then here's where we'll triple pack a punch and a legendary rarity, and then after that we might buy dead shot, and then after that we'll probably just wait for the rounds to progress. And you can see right here it evens out here at 1.25 zombie kills per second. Making sense so far? I really hope so, because our next thing is going to be kills per magazine. What this is I took the largest magazine possible after pack-a-punching, which in the Aim's case was 120 rounds, and of course we know that in that magazine we're going to have 120 rounds that are dealing 4,509 damage. You multiply those together, you get the damage of the magazine, and then you divide the damage of the entire magazine by the amount of zombies you get, and that's how many zombies you get per magazine. And obviously same thing here, it starts off pretty ridiculous. You clearly, like, per magazine, you're not killing 279 zombies with 120 rounds. That's just not possible, but that's that perfect damage coming into play here, because the spreadsheet's calculating that this damage is being evenly distributed. Hopefully you guys see the flaw in these stats right here. But even though it's flawed, I think this number is very interesting as we get to these higher rounds, because being able to kill 10 zombies per magazine of your gun at, infinite rounds is actually pretty cool. It's going to be less than that. It might be like 6, 7, or possibly even 8 zombies per magazine, but that's still higher than I would have originally thought. So more of a fun statistic to look at than rather anything groundbreaking. Now this round time, I'm not really happy with. In order to get the round time, what I wanted to do, we know our damage per second, so all we needed was to know how many zombies were on every round, and then multiply it by the health of that round to get a huge pool of zombie health for the entire round, and then divided by the damage per second to get us a minimum time, again, ideal time of completing that round, which would require you to go in game and record every single round's worth of eliminations, and then do some math to extrapolate how many zombies you get for every single round. And then you've got to adjust for bug rounds, and you got to look at the trend line, make sure you made an accurate guess and it makes sense, and it would just be a whole lot of work. So I went ahead and did all that. Now I know these are a lot of numbers here, but I'm just going to jump straight down here to this graph, because I just think this graph is just so much easier to look at than that chart up there. In the blue, you could see is my actual recorded zombies per round. Hopefully it's clear to you that you see this fun little consistent bug round happening every once in a while. You might be wondering what happened here. Well, I got a couple nukes that I shouldn't have. You might be wondering what happened here. Well, why did you get more zombies than you would predict? Well, that was either through upgrading your sword, or here you have some environmental zombies, which aren't technically round zombies, but they still count as your elimination zombies on the scoreboard. But I think it's pretty safe to say here's the trend line, and then right on over here, it's a really fun little cumulative graph here. It looks really smooth. Just going straight on up, you get exponentially more zombies with every single round. Pretty cool to look at. But with that information, here's the important part. With this information, we're able to figure out how many zombies per round, and we can multiply that by the health of the zombies at that given round to get us the amount of health that the entire horde has at any given round. Again, as an aside here, this is again imperfect math, because this is also counting special and elite enemies, which is only going to increase the amount of health per round. So again, when looking at these stats, know that they're not completely accurate, but they might be leading us in the right direction. But now that we have the amount of health per round, we can then take the damage per second and calculate how fast we're going to get through that round with that damage per second. And of course, in the early rounds, it's really fast because, like I said, it's using perfect stuff. I really wouldn't pay too much attention. What's more interesting is down here at the health cap, even with the spreadsheet assuming perfect distribution of damage, perfect headshot accuracy, perfect everything at round capped, at least with the Aim's 85, it is still taking you 2.1 minutes to complete an entire round. That is a long time, especially when you consider the perfect stats and the perfect damage that we're calculating here. The real time is substantially more, and I do that calculation on this chart here that we'll definitely get into soon. But here's what this looks like graphed. Now, I wouldn't trust the amount of minutes specifically, but this trend line is very interesting because I think this, more than a lot of other graphs here, shows us what the player feels. For the first 20 to 30 rounds here, we're getting like really good times for completing all of these rounds. It's only after round 30 and really after round 40 where it just keeps skyrocketing up and get like doubling how long it takes every couple rounds. So even if these exact numbers aren't correct, the trend line and the shape of this graph is very interesting to look at. But now I want to kind of go back and I want to show you all of the other weapons here. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to show you the graphs here. You can kind of see where everything lies. The Goblin, very underrated, incredible damage per second here. The XMG, really underperforming for some reason, only dealing 3,000 damage with a 731 rapid fire. It does have a 400 round magazine. I don't know, I might be off screen here. With a 400 round magazine, we're able to kill like 25 zombies per magazine, but that's not because we're dealing a lot of damage. No, it's because we have a really large magazine, which might be by design here. The goblin here, really slow rate of fire, only a 60 round mag, but we're able to kill 9 zombies per mag, and we've got an incredible 65,000 damage per second. There's lots of fun stuff here. The Strider is actually not too bad here. Again, 8 zombies per magazine. We've got 47,000 damage per second. That's more than the XMG. So there's our damage per second graph. You can see hopefully everything's labeled correctly. I really tried my best to label everything correctly. Here is the most important thing, in my opinion, or one of the most important things, the kills per second. You could see that even though all these different weapons have all of these different progresses or levels of progression, you can see I actually played different games too. You can see the 2 games I played on Liberty Falls with the Goblin and the Aims. They have a really high kills per second because you're able to do that church Easter egg and it's really small and easy. But on other stuff like Citadel More, Terminus right here, you can kind of see, well, actually, let's do this. I'm going to hide the Liberty Falls games here, and you can kind of see this really beautiful balance of the progression of zombies, of Black Ops 6 zombies, and really think about what this stat means. Kills per second. If you're killing 20 zombies per second, in the OG days, you had 24 zombies per horde. So, you know, somewhere around here, somewhere around 15 to 20 kills per second is basically one-shotting zombies at all times. And that, I think, is a very important number to remember when we get into the double tap portion of this video, because anything above 15 to 18 to 20 is going to be an insta-kill. So just remember that number. But also important to note here, look at how low the kills per second is. Again, after round like 40 especially, you're getting less than 1.5 kills per second. It's not a lot. And putting back the Liberty Falls games, you can just see how astronomically high this is. Like, it's crazy how powerful you are. Way above 20 for so long. You're insta-killing for so long when you do it early like I did. And then down here, we've got the round completion time. Obviously, we got the Goblin being the best, the fastest, you know, it's getting through the rounds faster. XMG taking its time getting through those rounds, man. And again, this 3.81 minutes is perfect damage, perfect accuracy, the most ideal. Like, it's crazy. You're still taking 4 minutes at round 60 to get through it with an XMG with perfect accuracy. And again, I want to point out that for the first 25 to 30 rounds here, this is kind of how fast the rounds are going. And then once we hit round 30, there is quite a bit of a difference of how long these rounds take. So this feeling of our weapons being bad at round 30, while statistically might not be the case, the feeling that we have is very real. And this is a great perspective of where that comes from. However, all of this was just talking about normal zombies. We still need to do some other stuff talking about special enemies and boss zombies. I'm not going to go through all of these charts. You can find this spreadsheet in the link in the description, but basically it breaks down very similarly. We have all of our damage. I did the armor damage, the special damage, the amalgam damage, and the abomination damage, which for maps where I didn't play Liberty Falls, I figured out that there's like about a 10% increase in damage you get to the abomination because sometimes his mouth is open, sometimes it's not. But for the amalgam, it's actually just the same as your special damage. So hopefully all of that makes sense here. So then we figured out our damage numbers, which we extrapolate our damage per second, which gave us a time to kill for all of these different things. You know, with the armor zombie, obviously armor is going to break before you actually kill it, so that's actually not really a valid statistic to look at, but I thought it was fun anyway. But the time to kill for like a special or an amalgam is really interesting. You know, this is at health cap at round 55 here. Even the worst XMG, this LMG, is still killing a special like a Mangler or a Doppelgast in like 2 seconds. Again, with the Deadhead augment, with the Vulnerability augment and the correct ammo mod, it's killing them in 2 seconds. That is crazy. Look at this Goblin killing him in 1 second. Look at this Strider 22 killing a special in less than 2 seconds with the correct ammo mod. So, and the right augment combination, really cool. And then we have our kills per second right here on the end here, obviously just kind of an inverse of this. I thought it might be fun to look at, but especially for the zombies, having that kills per second is going to be really important here soon, because I took all of these, and then you have, okay, we also have a way more accurate minimum time to kill round 55. Now, this is still assuming perfect damage, but I did this a little bit better here. This number is incorporating reload speed into this too. So I figured out how much damage per magazine does, how much health that round 55 has because of how many zombies are on there and how much health they have. So I figured out how many magazines of damage it would take in order to complete that total round. And then I multiplied that by how many reloads it would take. I did increase this number by 33% because that's what Speed Cola does. And of course, you're going to have that on round 55, but that is going to give us our most accurate estimate here of our round 55. So as you can see here, it's still quite a bit, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Well, way more than 2 minutes here. And instead of looking at this monstrosity here, I just decided to make really easy graphs to look at here. We could see our damage per second graphed out right here. You could see our zombies per second graphed out right here. 1 kill per second at round 55, I should say. Time to kill special enemies. This is special enemies again at round 55 at health cap. And this is time to kill amalgams at health cap. Very interesting, very surprising to me. Like I said, special manglers, doppelgast, you're killing them in 2 seconds. Amalgams without any armor or anything, taking about 22 seconds at the worst, about 13 seconds at the fastest. To me, that doesn't sound all that bad. 13 seconds to kill an amalgam with perfect accuracy, of course. I definitely feel like it could be better because this is assumed to be perfect, obviously. And then round 55 completion time, we've got some minutes right here. Obviously, XMG being the worst, Goblin being the best because of their time to kill and their damage and all that stuff. So pretty standard, really easy. Now that we have that established, what does all of this look like with Double Tap 2.0? Well, I went ahead and did that. So here is the same chart, except I added in a completely different side with Double Tap 2.0. Assuming Double Tap 2.0 would work exactly like it has in the past, it would double your damage of bullet weapons and it would increase your rate of fire by 33%. So that is exactly what I did. This number is just the previous rate of fire. You can see that's 1111 right there. I took this rate of fire right here, multiplied it by 33%, got that. I took all of these damage numbers, simply multiplied them by 2, and we have a brand new chart, brand new stuff, and more importantly, brand new graphs to look at right here. You can see Double Tap is going to be on the right and the regular is going to be on the left. Now looking at this, you think, oh my goodness, donuts. The aims goes from dealing 62,000 damage to 167,000 damage. You can see the XMG goes from 38,000 to 102,000. You can see there's a huge difference, right? Because it's 2 times plus the 33% rate of fire, right? Let's take a look at zombie kills per second. Higher is better here. So obviously we go, and this is the most deceiving graph right here. Please do not be deceived by this graph. This looks like such a ginormous difference, but really think about what zombies per second at round 55 is. We're going from 1 zombie per second, a little bit more than 1 zombie per second, to a whopping 3 zombies per second. We'll get a better perspective of what this looks like later with the other graphs that we did, but don't let that deceive you. Again, time to kill special. This is where it gets crazy. 2 seconds without double tap was already really good. Now we're killing them basically instantly. Half a second, 0.49 of a second. That's insanity. That is really overpowered. That means those doppelgasts, those manglers are zero much of a threat. To do half a second and then have them all destroyed, that is, in my opinion, way too overpowered. But let's look at the math first here. Amalgams, a little bit easier, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. That's actually not too bad. That's actually not too bad for the amalgams there. But again, I would say that's a little bit too easy. Just 5 seconds to kill an amalgam at the health cap. I don't know. And here's around 55 completion time. Again, ideal situations, perfect damage here. With double tap here on the right, we're doing 1 point, still with perfect damage, with perfect distribution of everything, with reloads in mind, we're still taking about a minute, 2 minutes here to complete around 55. That's still a long time, but definitely substantially better than the 4 minutes we were getting here. Because like I said, it's going to take you more than this, because outside of just missing your shots and not having perfect accuracy, you've got to train zombies. You've got to backpedal. You've got to reload. You've got to jump over stuff. You've got to slide out of the way. You've got to train up the zombies in the first place so you can line them up. You've got FMJ to worry about. Are you killing multiple zombies at a time? How does that damage get decreased versus the penetration damage that you? It's a not perfect stat, but it means that all of these numbers are going to be substantially more. Very, very interesting. But let's go back to this kills per second, because I think this is very important. Here is our big chart with double tap. Again, this rate of fire increase, the damage doubled, all that sort of good stuff. Looking at our graphs down here, the damage per second is pretty wild. We were living down here, and we'll do a comparison later, but this is what I wanted to show you. This is insane. This is too much. This is where I draw the line, and we actually get, okay, before I get too negative here, this actually gives us a fascinating look of game design and game development here. I want us to put on our game design hats here. Remember, okay, this is without double tap. I switched graphs. I know they look the same, but remember what I said, around 15 to 20 kills per second right here is gonna feel like basically an insta-kill. Remember that number. Remember around 15 to 20 somewhere feels like an insta-kill, feels like you're crazy overpowered. The community has kind of agreed at round 30, around, what is this? I mean, clearly it looks like around 3, 4, 5, 6 kills per second is kind of the max of what they want, because everyone says, oh, after round 30, the guns are garbage, which they're actually not. But in comparison, you can see exactly why people feel that way, because after that, it's just this huge drop off. So the sweet spot is probably around 5 kills per second. That's probably where people are most happy and feel like their guns are actually worth using. Around 5 to 10 kills per second is about where I think people will generally be happy. Now, when we add a double tap to this, you can see the 15 to 20 mark is going to be way down here. And you can see for a majority of the game, starting off all the way until like round 8 or 9, if you haven't pack-a-punched your gun or done anything, you're still going to be insta-killing zombies for the first couple rounds. And then once you do any sort of upgrade, you're back to insta-killing zombies. Around 10, you pack-a-punch, you do whatever. You're insta-killing zombies for the entirety of your entire game, all the way up to maybe round, what is this, round 27 or 30. That's when you stop insta-killing zombies with Double Tap 2.0. Now, yes, of course, you're not actually killing, 90 zombies per second, because that's not how spawns work and all that stuff, but you have the capacity to do that with all the damage and stuff. Like I said, anything past 15 to 20 is going to seem like an insta-kill. So with Double Tap 2.0, it's going to seem like an insta-kill all the way up until round 30. However, the bright side of that is that, take a look at this. Take a look at this round 30 and this round 40 specifically, right? We've got 4, 6, so that's about where the cutoff was without double tap, right? That like 3, 4 to 6 round here without double tap is kind of what we get right here at the round 40 with double tap. So with double tap, absolutely, rounds 30 to 40, a little bit better. It feels a little bit more normal. However, completely obliterates the entire first 30 rounds. You are absolutely crazy, way more powerful than you need to be. But as a lot of people have pointed out, well, if they add in double tap, it's going to be kind of like Vulture Aid, where in older maps, it's only going to appear in the Wonder Fizz. So you might not get it until that round 25, where you can actually benefit from it. So maybe there's some validity to that. That being said, after round 40, we have the same problem, where after round 40, we get to round 50 and we're back to killing like basically no zombies, 3 zombies, 2 zombies per second, which is far below what we said felt good even without double tap here. Anything below this 3 zombies per second or 3.74 zombies per second, we are still below that even with double tap. So these high rounds really aren't fixed. Like, it sounds really good for rounds 30 to 40, but after that, we are stuck with the same issue. And so if, think of it like a game designer here, are you going to put in a perk that you can't get for the first 25 rounds, that once you get only helps you 10 rounds, maybe 15 rounds over here, and then essentially does nothing to the high rounds except completely obliterate the special balance and the amalgam balance and all this other stuff? Personally, I think there's a better solution, but we'll get to that because I think I want to show you, here is the completion time with double tap. You can see here the XMG, again, about 2 minutes, ideal time, perfect damage, all this stuff. Let's go ahead and reveal or compare it to the old times. So here's all of the stuff we brought back, and here is, you can see, here is all of the old stats and graphs here without double tap, with double tap. We'll just kind of go through this. This is a mess right here, but you can see all of this stuff underneath here, really delicately balanced, really well done, and then goes in under here, and then all this stuff is just double tap craziness over here. And then here we have, again, kind of a bunch of here without double tap, or with double tap 2, and then without double tap 2, you can see a kind of obviously a doubling or a halving of the time it takes to do this. But again, you might look at this and say, oh my goodness, that's so good compared to minutes compared to this, and you'd be right. However, it's still gonna feel just as bad because, as you can see, whether you have double tap 2 or not, it's all the same down here. Once you hit round 50, round 45, it's all the same down here. It doesn't make that big of a difference. So donuts, what would make a difference? What would be really nice to do? Well, there's a couple things we could do. The very first and most obvious thing to me is, you see how consistent these first 30 rounds are for zombie health, and then after that it just skyrockets? We could take this round 30 health, this 10,000 health, and then just slide it up like that. Boom, there you go. That's your health for all of the rounds. And from there you can see, okay, all right, that looks pretty normal. This looks really consistent. And right there, that's actually a pretty darn good number. We have our round 30 damage right here, and we're still killing 7 zombies per second, 4 zombies per second. And then our round completion time is going to be really good because here, even at round 55, round 60, it's going to be less than a minute still. So option number 1, they could put in a health cap just for zombies, which would maintain the beautiful balance they have of boss zombies, special enemies, and weapons just by altering the zombies here. Or what they could do, and I think this might be kind of the best graph, or maybe this graph over here might be better for this, instead of just stopping progression at round 30 and just keeping it going like we just did, what they could do, and maybe this graph is better, they could elongate this graph. They can make this graph stretch even further and further and further, so that way, yes, you still have the increasing health of the zombies and the increasing number of zombies as we progress through the rounds, but maybe that incline isn't as steep. Maybe the health of the zombie isn't as sharp. Maybe they stretch this out all the way to round 100, so this isn't round 55 anymore. Maybe that health cap is now around 100, and therefore players have a lot more time to actually use those weapons and go into those higher-ish rounds. That being said, that solution kind of poses just a philosophical question of like, well, what's the point then? Because this graph in particular is very interesting. This is the round completion time, so this is how long it takes you to complete a certain round. You'll notice that even once we hit health cap, this number will continue to increase. Even though your damage doesn't get any weaker and the zombies don't get any stronger, why do you think this keeps going up? It keeps going up because you get more and more zombies per round. So in an ideal world, philosophically speaking, if your guns did insta-kill damage and you were able to perfectly kill zombies all the time, those higher rounds would still take longer and longer and longer because of just how many zombies there are. And we know this because we have an insta-kill strategy with Casimirs, with mutant injections, and still in those hundreds and hundreds of rounds, those rounds take 5 to 10 to 15 minutes at round 999. And so the question is no longer about weapon balance, it's now a philosophical question of, well, when should players stop using their weapons? When is it okay to mix up the strategy? When do they make it more difficult? How do they make it more difficult? What's the point of using a gun for that long? What is the end goal of this weapon balance? What's the end goal of the high rounds? And I was discussing this with in the Discord the other day, link in the description. High rounds end one of two ways. One, they get increasingly more difficult where they become unfair and you just insta die in one shot, or they're completely fair and we develop strategies and make them really easy, and now they're just tedious and they're too easy and no one's really happy with the difficulty because, oh, all you do is this, or all you do is that, or all you do is this, which is what high rounds have been for the entirety of high rounds. It's either, oh, you're just running around a trap, or oh, you're just using an ammo mod from Black Ops 3, or oh, you're just using a kill streak from Cold War, or you're just doing the mutant jet, So the question is, what's the purpose of high rounds? And how do weapons incorporate into that purpose? Like, what role do they play before they're not useful anymore? Should they always be useful? But if they're always useful, if you always have that insta-kill weapon that feels really good, well, then is that challenging? A lot of people don't think so. A lot of people say, well, if you just use any sort of weapon on any high round, then that's not a good high round. It's a very interesting question, and I want to propose one thing to you. Before we introduce Double Tap 2.0, which I severely think we don't need to do because that would ruin the early rounds and it really wouldn't do anything for the high rounds, what I would suggest is, again, either finding a health cap that works or elongating the health cap to make the weapons a little bit more viable. That way you're not messing up the weapon damages and you're just messing with the zombie health, which makes a little bit, I would think it'd be a little bit easier to do. But I want to show you this. These are all of the ways that you can increase your damage in Black Ops 6. You have 3 different levels of Pack-a-Punch, you have 4 different levels of rarity, you have Deadshot and its augments, you have the CHF barrel, and then with specials and bosses, you have Elemental Pop and ammo mods. Why in the world would we need to add another thing that dramatically increases damage, especially when that increase in damage at the end of the day isn't going to mean all that much, and it will completely obliterate the early rounds? The question becomes, is there a solution that wouldn't obliterate the early rounds, that would help with the high rounds, apart from adjusting the zombie health? That what I said, the only solution I could come up with is adding in a 4th level of Pack-a-Punch. I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds just like, well, duh, but I've been staring at this chart for so long. And I just want to show you this. As you're progressing through the rounds here, the damage is increasing over and over and over and over and over again until really early on, as early as round 20 with these Liberty Falls games here. But round 25 and Sizzle more, 25, you're already getting legendary triple Pack-a-Punch. And this is probably the best graph for it. On round 25, we are at our max damage, but there is still a long way for this to go before we get to zombie health cap. So what if there was just one more thing to increase this just a little bit more? That would elongate this damage all the way up to around 40, maybe 45, 50. But then again, even that I don't think would really fix the super uber high rounds here. It would still be kind of going towards that 1 zombie per kill just because of just how much sheer health and how many zombies are at these higher rounds. It's a very interesting question. I do not envy the developers over there at Treyarch because, man, oh man, what's the right idea? You've got all these different solutions that have all these different effects. People are crying for Double Tap 2.0, but I don't think they really realize the implications that it could have and just how not useful it could be at those higher rounds. Now, obviously, it is going to be useful. It's going to do stuff. It's going to be, twice as good as what we have now, but 2 times 1 is just 2. Like, it's not that much better, in terms of zombies per second here. You're like, oh my goodness, that's such a big difference. But 2 times 1.25 is 3.4 with a little bit of rate of fire increase too. The highest damage weapon here, the Goblin, still only killing 3.5 zombies per second with Double Tap 2. So you're not even getting the effect that people want from Double Tap 2 in the high rounds. There's got to be more solutions. There's got to be different things, or we just kind of have to come to the fact that like maybe we aren't supposed to use weapons in these high rounds. And then maybe the question is, okay, well maybe we do elongate these rounds a little bit more. I don't know. I just played the game. I made a lot of spreadsheets. I want you guys to look at them. Link in the description. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what analytical video you want to see next. Did you like the dark mode on everything? And if you want even more analytics by me, be sure to check out this video and stay beautiful.